going to do a critique on the 7.62 by 55 NATO. They call them battle rifles now. But this was the standard post-World War II style rifle. A lot of countries were developing it. Where the cartridge came from is new powders and that made the 7.62 by 55 possible to shorten the cartridge and give the rifle just about the same ballistic equivalent of the 30-06 out to about 700 or 800 yards. Okay, the 30-06 outperformed at a farther distance, but it was enough to redesign a new style rifle. Okay, they had a 20-round detachable box magazine. That's what all of these have. And of course the U.S. developed this cartridge and crammed it down everyone who signed the NATO treaty to adopt this. So it became the NATO standard from sometime in the mid to late 50s. And a lot of these firearms, one critical one missing is the FN-FAL. I've never had them cash to pony up for one. But these rifles did stay in service until about the 1980s. The M14, or as we call the civilian designation, the M1A1 here, I have here, it had a short service life. A lot of that was political. And then come to find out when they gave away whatever they had left, I think to Estonia, they needed to convert them all into sniper rifles, so they told the Estonians to give them back, and they were used in the Gulf War once again. And to this day, I guarantee you that any Navy ship out there has at least two of these. When I went back to my ship before they decommissioned it, they did have M16s, but two M14s were kept. And what it was, they put a strange modified like grenade launching device, and what this did is through a aluminum rubber coated aluminum ball. It's a line throwing gun. So the M14 still, with the Navy at least, is being used, converted to throw a line to the supply ship for underway replenishment. It still has a place in the military somewhere. Okay. All right, so this class of gun, all right, for shit hits the fan. This was a common military gun, let's say from the mid-50s to the 80s, to the late 80s. A lot of countries use something like this. This was the U.S. version, the German, and they exported to many Middle Eastern, African countries. The Setme Sea down there was another gun, wherever Spain was, and probably they exported and sold these rifles to numerous small countries. So it is a proven military weapon. So for shit hits the fan, yeah, it's good. Okay, I'm not going to rate it, and because when I go through the other points here, you are better off with like a AR-15 or a AK now. Well, AKs actually, some of these, the cost, when I go over the cost, some of these things were low enough to be in the same price range of what an AK is. At one time, an AK would have been a third of the, if not a quarter of the price of any one of these rifles. Okay, but they are reliable, proven military firearms. The only thing is they're chambered in a gun that's got a little bit more power than a lot of people, that lean towards the AR-15, you got more power there. So in a shit hits the fan situation, yes, it's good. It's not as good. There are better choices. So in a situation like that, a rifle of this power, I'm going to give it, say, a 7. Okay, and as I go through the other different things, you'll know why. All right, home defense. This is a tad bit more powerful. It's like defending your home with a 300 Win Mag hunting rifle. Okay. Not going to say they're that good, okay? The 7.62 NATO is a pretty tough cartridge. Actually it can be used against hard targets. In other words, like concrete structures, brick walls, or metal, defending. This thing here has more power. So in terms of home defense, again, like I said, unless you live where your home encompasses acres and acres of land, okay, then in that situation it'd be up there to a 10 or so, But in general terms, I'm going to have to give it for if you live in the city, if you're in an apartment, the average person is going to drop that down to a 5. Hunting, every single one of these has a 5-round magazine made for them, which makes them legal to hunt with. If you are comfortable with the design and like this, okay, you can hunt with these guns, and there's a whole array of soft point ammo. But if it will work 100% in these guns, 150 grain bullet, probably any 150 grain bullet, that's about what the military has, would probably work in these guns well. If you get into lighter or heavier ones, you may run into a problem. So with that factor there, hunting, I'll give it an 8, okay? General purpose shooting, these things are fun to shoot, and if you can afford the ammo, which is a little bit more costly than a lot of other choices out there, they're fun to shoot. Actually, the M1A1s are a target grade rifle. You can get these in match grade barrels and everything else, and competition shooters do use these in matches. Okay, this is probably one of the, if you're shooting the military courses, you're going to see a lot of these. So, general purpose shooting, I'm going to give it a 10. Militia weapon, when you're isolated, caught, yes, it'll do well. Again, the only thing going against it, chances are you will find more people with an AR-15 or an AK before you'll find somebody with a gun like this. So, ammunition, magazines, I think the magazines will switch between the German and the SHTF, but not with the M14. And the FAL has 2 different style receivers and 2 different types of magazines, be it metric or imperial, okay? So you get a little bit of parts differences, and you don't really see a lot of these out on the range, just casually shooting. Most people opt for a lower cost system, and it has lower cost ammo. So it can be used in that situation, and it is well suited for that, but how we're judging it, if you got a group of people coming, you may not find a bunch of them, with this type of gun using that type of ammo. So we're going to give that about a 7 there. Collector's item, going to give that a 10. That's half of this, the old nostalgia, having old style guns. All 3 of these, firearms are considered, obsolete or old technology. So collector's item, we're going to give it a 10. At think I need a battery change here. Alright, ammunition price and availability. Most militaries do still use this caliber in a light machine gun role. So there is current military ammo being produced, and you may find surplus ammo floating around. Okay, it's not that common because with the cutbacks and everything, and yes, the ongoing conflicts, it may not be easy to find. The average price you're looking at $1 per round is probably the best, up to 1.5. Okay, so your AR is, a better choice. I think for a few pennies less is your AK ammo, and this stuff here is not going to be cheap, so you give that about, that I'll say around an 8, because I don't know if you get a lot of surplus. I think you can still. I haven't looked for a while, but that's about the prices there. So it's not an inexpensive military weapon to shoot, but it still is better than some that you can't find any surplus ammo for and have to buy new production, which can be quite expensive. Alright, reliability. Now that's another big question. Most of these guns are built from some sort of kit, unless you're lucky enough to have examples that were made way back 40 years ago that were produced in the semi-automatic version and sold here. But these guns are quite rare. You don't find them. All of these here were made by companies on kits. This Set-Me-C, this HK style gun was the batch that came in from Portugal that Century Arms assembled the kits. It has, Century Arms has a bad rep. A lot of these things, there were issues with them when people would get them, no matter who made them. There are some companies out there that have an outstanding reputation for building these guns on new receivers with new barrels and everything like that. But you're not getting a totally new manufactured gun like from a factory back in the old days that made semi-autos for civilian sales. You're basically getting parts kits put together on a new receiver. So there is a little bit with some models a problem with reliability and functioning. The M1A1s are manufactured, brand new, 100% totally brand new by Springfield Armory and several other custom builders. You can get new out-of-the-box gun. This one here was built on a Chinese parts kit back 40 years ago, which that was not a good thing. But it had a national match receiver, a brand new receiver on there. I had to get a bolt, op rod, barrel, the whole 9 yards. I don't think I think I had a whole thing rebuilt. I tried to save money. Basically what I had was a stock. I went and bought a GI handguard, and I had the brand new receiver. And I had a gun built, and it cost me just as much if I went and bought a brand new one in the end. So trying to kind of save money didn't work out. But this gun, I had it built by Fulton Armory, put together, adjusted in that with a medium weight match grade barrel. They did an outstanding job, and this is a superbly accurate firearm. This gun is fantastic and never has given me any trouble. So, again, it's how it goes. The other ones were not bad. I have had no issues with these The Semi-C, it's a matter of the magazine variances. But other than that, the damn gun functions fine, goes together real tight. And the Century Arms gun has, at least as far as I'm concerned, has not let me down and works fine. I've had no issues with it. Other people may say, that they have problems, but as far as I know, nothing yet. Of course, I haven't really put, over 1,000 rounds of ammo through any of them either. Okay, parts, accessory, and repair. M1As, there are 3 or 4, because like I said, they are used in competition, target shooting competition. So getting the gun repaired or something fitted to it or some parts, they are available. I think the old military stuff has kind of dried up over the years, but I believe there's enough interest in these guns and enough use of these firearms that you can find parts, even if they're newly manufactured, fairly readily available. Magazines, I'm not quite sure. I have a bunch I had from years ago that are government issued GI mags. They're not marked or anything, but I have a stash of them, and that's what I use in this gun. I haven't purchased one in over 40 years, okay, a magazine, so I'm not quite sure. Now, when it comes to the German style H&Ks, these guns were common. I have both the very early dated 1960 steel magazines, which are heavier than hell. I have a few of them, which were floating around. And the aluminum ones, they made millions of them. And even when I had an original HK rifle, the magazines were really inexpensive. They were not that expensive. Okay, a few dollars. I think they're under $10. If you bought a whole pile of them at one time, you can get them well under 10 beans, okay? And they come used, scuffed up to brand new. You can find mags. How that's going to go over the years, I'm not sure. The Semi-C, their magazines are available. I did a video on how to get them if they don't quite fit in your gun, how to get them to fit. They do vary. They're not that expensive. I think under 20 beans. If you look around, it might be tightening up. I don't know. They still have kits available and stuff. And I believe people are still assembling these rifles, so not that terrible. If you go to the FNFAL, that is a different story. At one time when parts kits were coming in 15, 20 years ago, there were plenty of magazines and they weren't that difficult to find or expensive. But for some reason now, I guess magazines with that particular firearm is an issue. They're hard to find, and they go for like a C note when you do find them used. It's not new, that's used. Okay? So, and like I said, there's 2 types. The metric pattern and the other pattern. So that's another thing about that particular gun. And parts in that for them could be difficult to find. Parts for these 2 here, down here, the Semi-C and the HK, recently there's been enough of these firearms and parts kits brought in. There is not a shortage. You can find stocks, parts, pieces, fairly reasonable. Okay, so I'm going to say for now we'll give it like an 8. And difficulty in getting parts and stuff, alright, and repairs. I don't know if you can find gunsmiths that'll rework them, rebuild them. I know on YouTube I've seen where there are some companies out there that will rework these guns, be it AKs or whatever, and you can find somebody if you got a serious problem with it, to fix it. So overall cost and value. Well, when we're looking at guns in general and talking about, you know, shit hits the fan or whatever, just shooting this and that, all of these firearms are a bit more on the expensive list. Now, I've seen these drop because they brought all these in and said that one company was doing the receivers and setting the barrels and trunnions that, you know, was a top name company. But Century Arms, over the years, tried assembling all kinds of different guns from parts kits, and there were a lot of them that had a lot of issues. They were making a semi-C style gun that had the hardware, the stock of a, you know, HK. They made a lot of different strange guns from miscellaneous parts, and there were a lot of issues when they started doing it, okay? So they had a bad rep, and you have to be careful if you buy an older used one. Both of these examples I got a year ago. They're just newly manufactured or assembled from reputable companies, okay? So I haven't had issues with the Century Arms firearm, but I guess they did not sell, and they went from like $1,000 or $1K retail. They had these on sale at one point on online site for under $7 bills, 6 something, which I thought I got a deal when I got it when they had the first sale when sales were slow. I got this one for around 8 bills, you know. But, you know, what are you going to do? And these semi-Cs from Southern Tactical, where they're all refinished and they did a fantastic job, they were pricey too. And M1As, well, like I said, if you get a custom built one, it's going to be well over 2K. I don't know what brand new Springfield Armory field grades or whatever go for, but I know they're well over a K, approaching close to 2K. And FNFALs from, I think it's DPMS or something, that one company that makes them, DMS or something, they have a whole line of guns and different varieties and types. Everything is over 2K, some approaching 3. Okay, but they are a quality manufactured brand new gun, more or less. Okay, and they have a Rhodesian Bush model. They have the paratrooper models, which were quite rare back in the day. They have paratrooper models. Everybody's making these things with 16-inch barrels and stuff and things like that. So, you know, if that's what you're really into, you can find a vast variety of different versions of these guns. But the price tag's pretty high. So that's about it. You know, I love these guns. I love shooting them. I don't shoot them as much. You know, it's kind of like my Garand. You know, you're burning up some money when you take them out for a little bit of an extended range session, but I may get out and do some more work with these once again. Alright guys, thank you and stay tuned.